the best settings for scratching in DJ Pro. I'm DJ Spiegel Spin. And I'm gonna show you what settings and hidden features to use to turn you into a scratch master. I'm gonna go over how to scratch if you're just using the iPad or your phone, and then I'm also gonna show you guys how to program one of these controllers for scratching mode. So watch this to the end of the video and you will be a scratch master, whether you're just using your iPad or whether you're using the most advanced controllers out. Alright, in order to scratch, you need two things to start. You need a scratch sample. This is what you're going to be using to make the scratching noise, and you're going to make rhythms out of that. So you could either use a song that you're going to play and then use a vocal like oh 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 yeah or something like that, or you could use a dedicated scratch track. So I'll show you how to find those, and this is how. So you go over here to the music button, and that'll bring up the playlist, all your streaming service, all your local music on your device. But if you hold this in, you get this option here that says Scratch Tools. So now we're gonna load that in. This is the Scratch Tools provided by DJ Pro, and it was created by DJ Qbert, who is a famous scratch DJ. So these are high quality scratch samples, and it's about 20 seconds, 30 seconds long of different sound effects. It's not a song, it's just sound effects. So the first one is kind of like a squeaky noise, and then you could do something like this with it. So there's a lot of stuff. Also the reverse sound sounds cool. And then the one that I use most is this one right here, and it's like just a really cool effect, and it sounds like this. So that's the one I use. I'm gonna make a separate video going through all these sounds in this specific sample pack and how you could use them in different scratching, but that's how you load up the DJ Pro provided scratch sample. Now another thing you could do is if you have your own songs, or you could just download songs from onto your device and then use them, or if you're using a streaming service, some of them provide it. So we're gonna switch to Tidal, and then we're gonna type in scratch samples. Alright, and then over here we have all these albums, just DJ scratch samples. So this one, you load it up, and it's gonna be similar to the DJ Qbert one, it's just gonna be different sounds, and you could scratch them. So that's how you find your scratch samples. For this video, I'm just gonna use the DJ Qbert. So when you're first starting to scratch, it's fine not having a beat, because you're still practicing the memory of how to actually do the scratches, and then you're gonna match them with a beat afterwards. So that's how you load up your sample tracks. Sample ready for scratching. Next, you're gonna need a beat. So there's a couple ways to do this as well. So the first one would be to use DJ Pro's built-in looper. So if we go to 2-deck mode, you can get a better view of the looper. You press this over here, and now these are loop samples provided by DJ Pro, and you can make your own beats essentially with them. So the one that I use for scratching is called Funk Hop. So you could start it a little bit like this. I'll show you how you would use this sample in a scratch routine, I guess.
We live in proof of life you just read about. We only come to turn the party out.
That is how you get a beat, and then you could just leave that playing and practice scratching to it, and it'll stay the same. And you could experiment with the different packs have different BPM. So this is at 100 BPM, so it's not too fast, so it's really good to practice scratching. If you do one of the EDM ones, it's 128. So that's how you would do it using the looper to scratch. Now you could also do the same thing that I did to find the scratch sample. Is you could do over here, you could do just type in beats or instrumentals, and then you get a whole bunch of beats and instrumentals. So we could use, this one's a dance beat. And you could just find the ones that you like, and then you could add it to playlist, and then you could do it to your scratch sample playlist. And now the third thing, it's not required, but I like to do it a lot, is you could use the one-shot samples, which aren't gonna be looped through the looper. They're just samples. So this is the one I made that I use for scratching. You could edit these by doing the pencil, and then you could bring in other samples from different packs. I have a video specifically on that, so if you're interested in that, you could watch that. But here's how you would use a sample in a scratching routine. So we will turn this on. And then you could really use your creativity, and there's a lot of different samples that you could use while you're scratching. It's kind of like doing the drop scratch, which the drop scratch is like this. Drop scratch is you have it playing, and then you scratch, and then when you let go, it says the sample, so scratch, scratch. Oh yeah. But what you could do is, instead of having the record playing, which is kind of hard and a little bit more advanced when you're scratching, is just scratch and then do an effect after, like this. Ever, A, ever, A, ever, bass, ever, A, ever, A,
This one's
so
for
you
the
can make your own
ladies.
samples. I made videos on how to make your own samples. So if you make your own sample, you load it in and you use it for scratching. So now we have a beat and we have our scratch samples, and we're ready to scratch. So now the first setting that I'm gonna go over is crossfader cutting mode. So with a controller, this is very helpful because you could cut the crossfader so much easier than doing it manually, and this helps you with the chirp scratch. So here we're gonna go to our settings, and we're gonna go to general. Not in general, we're gonna go to MIDI devices, because this is a MIDI device, and then we're gonna have it on crossfader cutting mode. So here's what it looks like without crossfader cutting mode on. If you move the crossfader, it moves the same speed you're moving your finger. So now if we put it on crossfader cutting mode, done. So now if you slightly touch it, it'll move the crossfader, and this makes it easier to do really fast cuts. And now if you're not using a controller, you have this mode built in. It just is a little tricky to get used to. So you tap your finger on the crossfader, and that opens it up. So when your finger's on the crossfader, you'll be able to hear the noise you're playing, and when you take it off, you're not going to be able to hear it. So you could do cutting in and out and make rhythms out of it. So I'll show you. So this is how you'd use it. See, if you just have the crossfader open, the only scratch you could really do is the baby scratch. But now if you move the crossfader to the off position, and then you leave your finger there, and you go. And it makes it a lot easier to cut. It's still a little hard to do. So this is the baby scratch. And now this is the chirp scratch. I'm going to do a couple baby scratches and then a chirp scratch. And it sounds like a chirp instead of error. So that is a setting that makes it so much easier to scratch with. It's really hard to scratch if you don't know about that. So practice. The next really cool setting is that if you put more than one finger on the jog wheel, it cuts the crossfader automatically for you for like a scratching mode. So even if you're not an advanced scratcher or you've never scratched before, if you know how to use this setting correctly, then you could sound like a professional scratcher. So the trick is to do the sound. The sound sounds like this. And the faster you move the jog wheel, it makes different pitches and different sounds, so you can make a melody out of it. And then we're gonna do the scratching noise in between, like in a song that has like a clap. So it's gonna be like ever clap, ever clap, and it's gonna sound perfectly in beat and be very easy to do. So I'll show you really quick. So wait for there to be a clap like a hi-hat or some type of noise. This technique works with the baby scratch too, so if you just do a regular scratch in between some claps, then it sounds really professional and it's right on the beat and it's really fun to do. So this is how you would do it. So just practice on making the sound stop right before the clap. It's a little tricky sometimes, but once you get it down, it's really fun. Next, whenever you're scratching, what you're gonna want to do on the deck where you're using the scratch samples, you're gonna want to adjust your EQs accordingly. So the first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna want to lower the bass. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. The first way is obviously just go to the bass and turn it all the way down. This will make it sound more crisp and clean when you're scratching, and it won't have like a thud or a harsh noise from the bass. You won't notice the difference if you're just using the speakers on your phone or the iPad because they don't have much bass, or if you're using like a really small setup like computer speakers or something. But if you plug it into like a professional PA system or just some really loud speakers, then you're gonna hear a thud and it won't sound good when you're scratching. So turn the bass all the way down. Another way you could do this is go up here to your filter and you could turn the high pass filter on a little bit. So it's gonna filter out all the lows and it'll add a little more of a sweeping effect to your scratching. So always have the bass turned off when you're scratching. And then also if you're scratching with a song that you're gonna play next, like if you're doing a scratch drop, make sure to remember that you have the bass off and then turn it back on so you don't miss the bass drops. Another thing that you might want to do when you're scratching is adding an effect to it. So what you're gonna do is you could use either echo or reverb. So you could let the sample play and then you could hit the echo and then it'll it'll have an echo sounding. So I'll show you. So we're gonna use ah yeah. So I'm gonna do ever ah yeah, and then put the echo on, and then move the crossfader, and the song's gonna be off, but you're still gonna be able to hear it. I hit it a little bit too late. That was reverb. I meant to do echo, so we're gonna do echo. So that's what it sounds like if you scratch with the effect on. So, if you're doing a routine or if you want to make a melody out of that, you can. But here's what I like to do, which is scratch and then put the echo on. And then you hear it keep going. It's really fun to do. It's also fun to do on the controllers, where if you program an echo into one of these buttons, or if your controller has an effect button, then you could scratch and then hit the effect on quickly. So that's how you're gonna use effects. There's also a built-in scratcher effect in DJ Pro, so I'll show you guys how to use that one really quick. So we'll get maybe some EDM music. You could use any song you want. I'm just using songs that I could play for you guys right now. So let's get Alright, here we go. So this is the scratcher, so you're going to turn it on, and then you're going to use this, which adjusts the sound of it, to change up the pitches. And I'm also going to show you another way you can do it as well. So let's just go. Thanks for watching, guys. Scratching is one of the most fun parts of DJing, at least for me. And I waited a really long time to learn how to do it because it was kind of intimidating and seemed like it was hard. But if you know the right settings and the right techniques, it's really easy to do, and you don't need any fancy equipment like turntables. You can do everything on your phone or on your iPad. So if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. I have a lot more tutorials, and give this video a like, and let me know what you guys want to learn next. Thanks for watching. You guys make it all possible.